All right, so in the last video, we discussed the basics of event handlers. So by the way, these are all event handlers built into JavaScript or P5. Some of them are actually built specifically into P5 and aren't necessarily available in normal JavaScript. That's part of that additional library that you're working with. And so if you were working with other languages, like, I don't know, say C++ or C# or something, you would have to sort of look up the various event handlers that those languages have too. Most languages have event handlers to handle basic input, things like key presses and mouse presses and such. So speaking of key presses, so the last video, really everything was based on the mouse, right? And that's one way to interact with a program. We may want to do a keyboard input, okay? So what I'm going to do is we're going to use a function called key press. And what that does is it checks to see whether a user has pressed any key on the keyboard, okay? So just like with the mouse pressed or the double clicked, this is an event handler. Event handlers have to be separate from the setup area syntax function and the draw function. So I'm going to say key pressed. Okay. And for now, I'm just going to make it say something basic like key was pressed. Okay. Nothing overly interesting. Now I'm going to hit play. And I'm going to click my mouse here. Click, 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 click. And I did that and nothing happened because it's not checking for mouse clicks. It's checking for keyboard presses. Okay. Now I'm going to press a key on my keyboard, like say the Q key. And it worked. And I'm going to press a different key now. I know you can't tell, but I'm pressing the G key or the B key or the P key. I don't know why I'm rhyming letters here, but the Z key. Oh, another rhyme. Anyway, it doesn't matter if they rhyme or not. The point here is that anytime I press any key on my keyboard, that counts here. It doesn't matter what key it is. Like I said, I just pressed a bunch of different keys and they all ran the same event handler code. Okay. Now, once again, maybe you want to do this with a variable. So maybe I say, okay, let's make count equals 0. And instead of printing this, I'm going to say count equals count plus 1. And why don't we print out that value just for now? It's fun. This is my definition of fun, of course. I'm going to hit key. So I'm pressing my mouse. Nothing's happening. I'm pressing the Q key. I get 1. I hit maybe the D key. That's 2 because it was 1 and then we added 1 and then printed out the value. The J key, the K key, the F key, I can keep doing this all day, right? And so you can see that I'm using an event handler to manipulate a variable while the program is running. And that's what makes this super powerful, okay? Let's do something kind of fun here, okay? We are going to make a very, very simplistic, I wouldn't even call it a game. I'm just going to make a circle that moves across the page, okay? So what I'm going to do is let's keep our count. And actually, I don't even need to use, we'll do that. So let's keep count at 0. And I'm going to make the count the X value for a circle. Okay, so it's going to start on the left side. And then we're going to change every time we hit, we're going to make the X value higher so that it moves a circle across the page. Okay. Get this to work the way I want. I'm going to move this background down here. Okay. Actually, well, okay. I'm actually going to have it twice. All right. What I'm going to do is add a circle using the circle function, and we're going to make the X value count. And I'm just going to put in, this is the Y value, and put it about halfway down, and let's make it 50. Okay. And, ooh, actually, I take that back. Why don't we put this in, I'm going to do this in draw. I apologize. Because I could do it either way, but I feel like, why don't we just do this, that the circle is here. And before I run this, let's just do a little Blackboard code here. So we've said, okay, count is equal to 0. This is fine. This just sets up a background color. I don't even really technically need that one. This is basically setting up the canvas, just so we have a size of it, which is like this. This is giving us a background color of gray. That's always going to be, because it's running every frame, it should always be gray. And currently it's just whatever, our circle is always going to be whatever the X value is, which currently is set to 0. Okay, now 0, 250 would be kind of like there, give or take, right? So let's just check that that's working. And it is, okay. So now what I want to do is, how about every time we press the key or any key on our keyboard, why don't we take the X value and add 25 to it, okay? So how would we do that? Well, count equals count plus 25, okay? So I'm gonna hit play, and what's going to happen is every time I hit a key on my keyboard, that's going to change this from 0 to 25 and then 50, 75, you know what I mean? So that's going to change because this is being reevaluated every frame of every second. That's going to let you change that value. So it's, it starts at 0 right now, but then it's going to go to 25, 50, 75, 100 all the way through. So I'm just going to hit the Q key. There you go. I'm going to hit the V key, the C key, the S key, the D key. All right. So I'm making a very, very basic, like making a character move across the page. Okay. So imagine this was like Pac-Man or some other two-dimensional game character. This is kind of what we're doing. We're saying, okay, we have this item. It has a value, and then every time we hit a key on our keyboard, we can manipulate. By the way, I could have also done this with the mouse. It doesn't have to just be the keyboard. I just chose to do it this way, okay? So you can see how we can have some fun with this, right? Now, the one thing is, when I run this, it technically does this for any key. So if I use the Q key, I use the D key, oops, sorry, Q key, D key, F key, J key, I don't know, 1 key, 6 key, whatever, okay? It always works, or, it's always running, right? What if I wanted to be a little bit more specific? Maybe I don't want every key to work. I only want it to work when I use the A key or the B key or something like that, or the enter or something like that. Well, when you use the key pressed, there's actually this variable there's kind of a built-in P5 variable that's actually automatically run. And it's called key code. Okay. Key code is equal to whatever the last key that was pressed. And when I say whatever, and what that really means is that it's actually the number. I don't want to get too technical, but every key on your keyboard corresponds to a specific number. So like, I'm not going to get it right because I don't know what you'd have to look up there's a table that does this, but essentially it's like, imagine that the A key represented 0, 1 and the B key is 0, 2. So every letter on your keyboard corresponds to a different number. And that's actually what will be kept here. Now, this is actually done for you. You don't have to write this code. Now, to show you that this actually works, what I'm going to do is actually print out that value. Okay, you'll notice it's magenta because it's a built-in variable. And if I hit the A key, see how it gave me 65? So 65 is actually the key code for the lowercase a. If I hit the G, you can see it gave me 71. If I hit the Z key, it gave me 90, so on and so on and so on. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, I want to know, did I press the A key or not? Well, what we know is that the A key is equal to 65, right? So what we could do is combine this with our new understanding of if statements. So what I could say something is like this. If key code is equal to 65 or whatever, that's the value of the A key, then I'm going to say, you pressed the A key. Does that make sense? So, I can come into here, I'm pressing the T key, the Y key, the J key, none of those are working because they're giving back a different key value than 65. But if I hit the A key, which is 65 equal to 65? The answer is true. So this should run. Oops, I forgot a semicolon there. There you go. Okay. Now, how could we use this? Well, what if I went back just to make things even more kind of interesting? I'm going to set the count equal to 200. This way, the circle starts off in the middle of the page. Okay. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, if I hit the A key, I want it to go to the left. And if I hit the S key, I want it to go to the right. Okay. So the way I can make it go to the left or right is either adding 5 or 25 or subtracting 25, right? Either one would change the X value, right? But we have to know when we do that. So what we could do is use an if statement. So how about this? Rather than just saying something like, you press the A key, I'm going to say, so the A key goes to the left. So that would be count equals count minus 25. Now that's only going to check for the A key, but if I want the S key, I have to write another if statement. If key code is equal, I don't even know what S key is. I should have checked that. There's a document that will tell you this. There's someone who's come up with this. So I don't know. It is S should be 83. So let's try those out. If it's something as simple as like a basic table, I guarantee you someone's already done it. You can just go to Google and like type it out. You know what I mean? There's no use wasting your time doing all this. So sorry, what was that? 83? 83. Okay. Like I said, I don't need you guys to like waste your time. If someone's already did it, just use it. You don't get extra credit for doing more work. Count equals count plus 25. Okay. All right, before we do this, let's do a little keyboard, blackboard coding. So we start at count is equal to 200. Okay. The circle is going to be what, its X value is going to be whatever the value of count is. So it's defaultly going to be 200 because variable substitution. And this is being rerun every single frame. So it's constantly checking the value of X, right? What I'm saying here is, okay, well, if someone presses, first it's checking, did someone press a key? It doesn't do anything until you do that, right? Then it's really doing the second part, which is, okay, we pressed a key. Is it the A key or is it the A key? Yes or no. Is it the S key? Yes or no. Okay. If it's the A key, it runs this. Count goes from 200 to 175. And that would move the character to the left. If it's 83 or the S, that would add 25, and that would be 220, count is now equal to 225, and it would move it to the right. Sorry, I've got to do it backwards because of how the camera works here. It's a little stage left, stage right action here. All right, so let's try this out. Let's hit play. I'm going to hit the A key, and it goes to the left. I'm going to hit the A key again, goes to the left. I'm at the Q key. Nothing happens. R key, T key. I'm going to hit the S key, and it goes to the right. Okay. Now, at the moment, I can actually go off the page. We didn't write any code that prevents it. So what's actually happening here is I'm like at negative X value here. So I'm actually off of the page. The same thing here. If I go all the way over here, I'm at an X value that's actually more than 400, so you can't even see it anymore, but it's still working the way it's supposed to, even if you don't visually see it, okay? Now, what we could do is, just kind of helps make your life a little easier, is there's actually built-in variables for the main keys. So like backspace, enter, tab, up arrow, down arrow. So what I'm going to do here, and this is pretty much basically what we just did. I got there's a variable called circle X. In draw, I'm setting up circle X like such. What I'm going to do, and I should probably do this, otherwise you're going to see all the copies of the circles. Let's do key pressed. Let's just make sure this works. So if this for now, if someone hits any key, circle X equals circle X plus 25. So I'm using different keys here, but I wanted to be a little bit more specific. So we are going to use an if statement. And what you can actually do is, let's just say for the sake of argument, I want to use the right arrow on the keyboard. There's already a variable for that called right arrow. So what I would do is if I say right arrow, always use all capitals. That's just the syntax for it. And there's no spaces, you just use an underscore. So if I say if right arrow, if, well, it could do either way. Remember, we're checking key code. If key code is equal to right arrow, that is when circle X equals circle X plus 25. So this is very similar to what we just did. The only difference is rather than checking a literal number, we're using just a built-in variable that P5 has. Okay. And if I come in here, I hit the Q key, W key, R key, T key, nothing, but I hit right and it works. Okay. Now at the moment, I don't have a left arrow doing anything. I want to use the left arrow to make the character move left. If key code is equal to left arrow, circle X equals circle X minus 25. Okay. So, at the moment, nothing's happening. If I hit the T key, Y key, U key, I, O, P, nothing happens. But if I hit right, it goes right. If I go hit left, it goes left. Okay. Finally, there's other keys we can do. So you can notice I can hit tab or return. So I don't know. I don't know what I want to happen when it hits return. Maybe when you hit return, like, I don't know, a square appears, a blue square. So if key code is equal to return, then I'm going to make a blue square that just kind of appears in the middle of the page, because why not? Topsy-turvy world we live in. All right. So it's only going to work when the key code is equal to the return, which is also enter. So on a keyboard, enter and return are technically different. So it depends on your keyboard. I have a Mac setup, so they don't have the enter key. They have the return key. Okay. So just double check whether your key is technically called the return or the enter key. So what I'm going to do here is I can go left, I can go right. I want to make that square appear, hit return. Oops. Oh, okay. Here's what happened there actually. Because of this got blocked. So what I'm going to do is put this here. And then when I hit return, then it makes the square. If you're wondering why it makes the circle blue, the reason why is this got added. So now my fill is always blue. But then when I return back here, it's always building a circle, but the circle is building, but it's still using the old fill. If I didn't want that to happen, I'd have to do something like this, where I kind of set the color of the fill to default, which is white. There you go. Doesn't affect anything. So you can see, how we can use this to make some really interesting things. So like, to make your programs really interactable, you're going to have to, use something like key press, mouse press. There's other things you could do. Like I said, if you really wanted to make something for your phone, You could do shaking or orientation or something like that and run some sort of code. Maybe you can set it up that the background color changes when your phone switches, or you do this and then the background color changes, or it says like your phone is going fast or whatever, whatever you want to do. Okay.